continuing on in Revelation tonight. A brand new chapter. Chapter 17. The harlot. Let's get straight into it. There'll be some revision involved in all this from the previous weeks about the beast and everything. Let's get straight in. Can you all see the screen? Good? It's bright enough? Yeah? Please observe something. The final judgment of Babylon the Great was prophesied back in Revelation 14. That was a few chapters ago, a few weeks ago. Let's just refresh that. Remember it said, then the second angel followed the first angel, shouting, Babel has fallen, Babel has fallen. The great city of Babylon is destroyed. For she made all the nations drink the wine of the wrath of her whoring. Whoring is sexual sin and idolatry. We'll get into that a little bit later. So this was said back here in Revelation 14. Now, in Revelation 17 to 19, we're going to see the judgment of the beast in greater detail. It was just touched on back then. Now we're going to see it in greater detail. We have to be careful not to think that John's abstract visions are being rolled out in chronological order. They're not just being rolled out in chronological order because we only get brief snapshots. Imagine if we were all just having visions and writing them down. They're just brief snapshots of things. You don't just join them all up and make a list. No. Brief snapshots. Only later to have the subject revisited, and then we get more details. What? I don't need you yet. John, like Daniel, has abstractly seen this beast a few times now. So hopefully we can see that it's the same system of the dragon that's all around us today. And for anybody who missed those weeks or wasn't here, let me show you the idea of the beast. This is where the beast comes from. Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel had a dream. So what I'll do is I'll read the scripture along the side here, and you guys keep your eyes on this side and see where it all comes in. And I'll read this bit here because I couldn't remember it. Daniel 2 and 7. King Nebuchadnezzar, in your dream, you saw a large statue, there it is, in front of you that was very large and shiny and very impressive. The head of the statue was made of pure gold. Its chest and arms were made of silver. The belly and upper part of the legs were made from bronze, and the lower part of the legs were made from iron. That's come out. And its feet were a mixture of iron and clay. I've got it in there for you. There's the iron, there's a mixture of iron and clay, see? So, while you were looking at the statue, you saw a rock that was cut loose, not by human hands. Then the rock hit the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold smashed to pieces all at the same time, and there was nothing left. King Nebuchadnezzar, you, Babel, are that head of gold. You, Babel, are that head of gold on the statue. Another kingdom will come after you, silver, but it won't be as great as yours. That was the Persian Empire. Next, a third kingdom will rule over the earth. That is the bronze part, Greece. Then there will be a fourth kingdom, and it will be strong like iron. And that was Rome. And that was the kingdom that was there when John was writing this. Just as iron breaks things and smashes them to pieces, that fourth kingdom, that's Rome, will break all the other kingdoms and smash them to pieces. You saw that the feet and toes of the statue were partly clay and partly iron. So what's happened to Rome? That means the fourth kingdom will be a divided kingdom, which is exactly what happened to Rome, having some of the strength of iron in it and partly weak like clay, for they're mixing with the seed of men. But iron and clay don't mix properly together. So you're keeping track of this? We're up to Rome. And then we've got the iron and the clay here, which is a mixture of everything. So in the same way, the people of the fourth kingdom will be a mixture and will never be united. What's the world trying to promote now? Come together, one world, be united. Just come together. Tolerate all religions, come together. They will never be united as one people. During the time of the kings of the fourth kingdom, Yahuwah of the heaven will set up his kingdom. This is during the fourth kingdom. This is during Rome. This is during the time Yahusha came. What did Yahusha do when he came? Set up his kingdom, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Didn't he go back up there and back in there, I should say, and boot the devil out? He set up a kingdom that will reign forever and never be destroyed, for it cannot be simply taken over by another nation. Then we jump to Daniel's vision about the horns and the animals. The 10 horns are 10 kings that will come from the fourth kingdom. So this fourth kingdom of Rome is going to have 10 horns. After those 10 kings are gone, another king will come, different from the kings who ruled before him. He will defeat 3 of the other kings. This wicked king will blaspheme and mock the Most High Yahuwah, hurting and killing his chosen people. That king will even try to change the times and divine laws that have already been set. Who tried to change all the times and divine laws? Who said it by order of death you can't rest on the Shabbat anymore? Emperor Constantine did that. Yahuwah's set apart people will be under that king's power for 3.5 years, but the judgment will sit. The judgment will sit and take away its rule, destroying his kingdom forever. That's way back here in Daniel, but this was prophesied. This statue and these kingdoms that would come and rule the world back here in Daniel. We have to remember that everything John sees in his kooky whirlwind of visions, he's just trying to put words to them from the scriptures that he already knows. And this is exactly what Daniel saw, what John is seeing. And we know that from the way it's explained. So see this statue here? This was Nebuchadnezzar's vision. There's all the names that we saw. Well, Daniel saw the same vision again, but instead of seeing a statue, he saw the same thing. All these nations, he saw them in the form of animals. Remember we went through that a few weeks ago? Yeah. He saw a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And we worked out, when we added all the animals together and all the heads and all the horns, we had 7 heads and 10 horns, which is exactly the beast we're going to see today that the woman is riding. A beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, which means it's the exact same system. Exact same system. So all these beasts that we've seen all culminate in this sea beast, earth beast today that we see with 7 heads and 10 horns. But there's going to be a progression today. Is everybody understanding that? We've been through it a few times now. So there's going to be a bit of a progression today though, because unlike all the other beasts, standing alone, we're going to see a woman riding this beast. What on earth does that mean? Revelation 17. And one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls. So there's a time frame for you. These are the 7 angels that held the 7 bowls. I thought we were finished dealing with the bowls of wrath. Last chapter. See how the visions cross over and jump all over the place? Yeah. This is one of the same angels that were holding one of the 7 bowls. So maybe it was after he poured his bowl, maybe it was before he poured his bowl. He suddenly said, hey, come check this out. So he says, come and I'll show you the judgment. Remember that judgment you heard about with the great whore? Come check this out. Come and I'll show you the judgment of the great whore sitting on many waters. Many waters means that the world is under her spell and sovereignty. Because if you're on a beast or riding a horse, who's the boss? You or the horse? You. You're the one riding it. You're the one controlling it. This woman is controlling all that beast system we learned about. This woman's controlling it. I'll show you the judgment of the great whore sitting on many waters, who the rulers of the earth have whored with. And now the people of the earth are drunk from the wine of her fornication. Drunk.
You said it.
Drunk. Then the angel carried me away by the Spirit to the wilderness. So he's just seen this, something like this anyway. Over here, just seen something like this. Remember, he's not seeing words like we are. He's just seeing all these visions. He's got to work out how to explain it afterward. So he's just seen that. Then he gets whisked off to the wilderness. And there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which had 7 heads and 10 horns. What? 7 heads and 10 horns, must be the same beast. And the heads were covered with evil names of blasphemy, mocking and insult. And this is interesting, because I hadn't looked at it like this. Satan mocks everything. Everybody's been mocked before. You know what being mocked is? Being taunted and insulted. And they mock you. What we're going to find in chapter 17 is intentional mocking and mimicking of Yahusha. It's like the way a mirror automatically reverses an image. See how the woman riding on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is exactly the opposite of the woman in Revelation 12. Remember this woman? The sun, moon and stars? She was a symbol of the bride, who was clothed in the sun, had 12 stars as a crown, and was pregnant with the Messiah. One is empowered by Satan, the other by Yahusha. It is a battle of evil against good. The character and nature of the righteous woman, just so you know, a woman is a symbol of the bride, a bridal fellowship of some kind. Whether good or evil, it's a symbol of a bridal fellowship. So the character and nature of the righteous woman, symbol of a bridal fellowship, versus the character and nature of the evil woman, who is also a bride. And in chapter 12, there was a battle of evil against good that took place in heaven. Remember the war in heaven? Satan was kicked out. Good won. Satan was expelled, and so now he turns all his attention to the earth, his last chance at having a kingdom for himself. He was cast down in the beginning of his authority. He's no longer a seraphim. Before creation, he was booted out. Now he's been locked out, kicked out, no longer can have access. He still hasn't learned, has he? He still thinks he can have one last shot at some kind of rulership. So he's turned his efforts onto the earth. And now Satan mocks and mimics Yahusha by bringing forth the evil woman riding on the beast. And her job is to turn the nations of the world against Yahusha as a prelude to an all-out war for planet Earth. We dealt with that when we learned about the Euphrates River, didn't we? This war that's going to happen. Before that happens, he wants to get as many people as he can. And this will be Satan's last stand. The war to end all wars, Armageddon. So this woman is a complete insult. Everything that Yahusha hates. The woman was dressed in purple, royalty, and scarlet red, a whore, and shining with gold, precious stones and pearls that she was wearing. Why was she wearing all that? She's mimicking and mocking Yahusha, because these gold and precious stones are a perverse display of the breastplate that the high priest wore, symbolizing Yahuwah's chosen people, Israel. You got a high priest and breastplate and stones and lots of bling. Check this out. Check out what I can do, he says. Remember we finished last chapter with all the cups and bowls of wrath? Mm-hmm. Well, I can have a cup too. Check this out. She had a cup, a golden cup in her hand, filled with evil abominations and the filth of her whoring, mocking Yahusha's use of gold vessels given to angels to pour out his wrath and judgment. The harlot's gold vessel is filled with obscene and filthy abominations that have been produced by her whoring. Yahusha calls the worst of the worst sins abominations. And ritual impurity is the result of sin. So this isn't just sin, this is abomination. This is the worst kind of, back in Leviticus, there were about 5 or 6 things you could do that were absolute abominations. You did no argument, take him out and stone him. Dead, cut off from physical, spiritual realm, everything. You do that, you're dead. So not only is she mocking him with the gold and the bling and the stones, she's mocking him with a cup in her hand which she's drunk on. She had a secret title written on her forehead. Who else had a secret title written on his forehead? No. mentioned him before. The high priest. And she had a secret title written on her forehead, Babylon the Great, mother of whores and abominations of the earth. The high priest of Israel wore a headband with Yahuwah's name written on it. You couldn't get a more pure, perfect, wonderful thing to have written on your head. Yahuwah's name written on it. So what's written on the harlot is a complete mocking send-up of the divine name, the creator of heaven and earth. She's not just writing it there. She's stating proudly and brazenly that she's indeed a whore and the source of all abominations. That's right. That's me. I've done all this. What are you going to do about it? That's how she feels. She's absolutely brazen. I've done it. I will keep doing it. What are you going to do about it? I'm taking as many with me into this filth and destruction. And I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of Yahushua's chosen people, his witnesses. Drunk, absolutely drunk. She doesn't just have blood on her hands. She is completely, ecstatically, raveningly intoxicated. Not with alcohol, with the blood of Yahushua's followers, who refuse to conform to her behaviour and lifestyle. Getting an idea of the woman, the mentality, the wickedness of this woman that's controlling this beast. So when I saw the woman, I was amazed and marvelled. This was interesting. He was amazed. This is John. He was amazed and marvelled. I always thought he was just confused or pondering. No, he was amazed, besotted. But the angel said to me, why are you marvelling at this? In other words, what about this woman impresses you so much that you're enchanted and delighted in childlike awe of her beauty and magnificence? That's what sin is, isn't it? Enchanting and wonderful and beautiful. Depending on how extreme it is, your eyes light up and you say, what? What's this? What's this? And the angel has to sort of, what's going on? What are you so la-la about this woman for? What's impressing you so much about her? Enchanted in childlike awe of her beauty and magnificence. Don't be bedazzled. She's not what you think she is. I'll tell you the secret meaning of this woman and the 7-headed, 10-horned beast she rides. The beast you saw was once alive, but now it's not. We dealt with him, didn't we? The beast that had the deadly wound to its head and came back to life. The beast you saw was once alive, but now it's not. However, it will come up out of the bottomless pit and go to be destroyed. The people who live on the earth will be amazed, just like you just were. Amazed when they see the beast, because it was once alive, is no longer living, but will rise again. Let's just make it simple. It all started with Nimrod, Satan in Nimrod. That's who we're talking about. These are the people whose names have never been written in the scroll of life since the beginning of the world. So, that's the first half of this chapter we're going to deal with today. Now that we know who the beast is, dealt with that, John sees a harlot, a whore, a prostitute riding this beast. Every single translation says a different word. I saw a harlot riding it, I saw a whore riding it, I saw a prostitute riding it. When I looked up every single one of those words, interestingly, they all have the same Hebrew meaning. So we've just made them all together. Whore, harlot, prostitute, and fornication all have the same Hebrew meaning. Zonah, which is to commit adultery, usually of the female, because everything back in Torah times was, adultery was something only a woman could do back in Torah times. To commit adultery, usually of the female, and less often of simple fornication. Rarely of involuntary ravishment, that's rape, involuntary. It's not usually talking about rape. Figuratively, to commit idolatry, because the Hebrew people being regarded as the spouse of Yahuwah. To commit fornication, including adultery and incest. Continually play the harlot, whoredom, whorish behaviour. So that's what it means, Zonah. Then there was a little bit more to it, Kadesh, a quasi, which is just fake Fake-ass sacred person. They think they're sacred, they're fake. Like a male devotee, by prostitution, to licentious. Licentious means unacceptable, through transient sexuality. Unacceptable through transient sexuality is licentious. Licentious idolatry, like a sodomite or unclean. Sodomite just means anal sex. Men or women, actually, in Torah times. And this was all, of course, being promoted by the temple, the pagan temple. You had to do all this stuff to worship your idols. That's the male version. The female version is Kadesha, which is just the female of this one. A female devotee, prostitute, harlot, whore. I thought it was interesting that all these words are from the same, that's what prostitute, fornication, whore, and harlot means. So if you do anything back in the later scriptures when the disciples were writing their letters and they used the word fornication or immorality, it's the same word as being a whore or a harlot. People don't realise that today. In the Greek, check this out, whore and harlot is the Greek word porneia, from which we get the English word pornography. This literally means that all of Yahuwah's laws and commands on sexuality given back to Moses, all those laws and commands on sexuality and sexual behaviour have been turned on their head. And the instruction against fornication, whorish behaviour, not only has it become disobedient, it has become celebrated. Not only are they disobeying it, they are celebrating it and declaring it as good. That's the world we live in today. Spiritually, it means illicit, illegal unions between a harlot and a client. But while the illicit relationship may not always be sexual, because idolatry isn't always sexual, but while the illicit relationship may not always be sexual, it is still the joining, the yoking together of ourselves to something Yahusha finds wicked and immoral. You understand that? It may not be always sexual, but it's joining yourself to something that Yahusha finds wicked. Behaving like the world does makes us an enemy of Yahusha. Behaving like the world does, because the world celebrates all this idolatry. The world celebrates all this. Celebrates it. It's brainwashing everybody to, if you see it enough, you will think it's normal. Like you're saying. Every show, every movie, everything. It's got graphic sex, it's got pornography, it's got gays, it's got lesbians, it's got LGBTQ, I, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's got all of it. If we see it enough, we won't be so, will we? We'll just think it's normal. And that's the harlot, the whore's plan.
Everyone's drunk.
Everyone is drunk. So, I thought that was interesting. I don't hold much, don't even look at the Greek normally, but in this case, that makes it pretty close to home, doesn't it? Porneia, pornography. That's just celebrated these days. You're an idiot, or you're just a freak if you're not, at least haven't, if you're not involved, or, people just tell jokes about it. Schoolyard, work, everywhere, it's just a joke. It's assumed that everybody's into it. So, how does Yahusha feel? Behaving like the world does makes us an enemy of Yahusha. In Scripture, a whore, prostitute, and a person who commits adultery, which is breaking wedlock, which is sex with another man while the husband is still alive, they were both guilty of the same basic crime, idolatry. This harlot has committed whoring with the kings of the earth, luring them away from obediently serving Yahusha into worshipping false deities, which can be also riches, wealth. Remember, it's not always sexual. You can be completely besotted, spend your whole life obsessed with riches, wealth, forbidden pleasures, science, humanism. Humanism was the whole Nimrod Tower of Babel thing. We don't need any creator, we can do this ourselves. There is no God, they say. Humanism and intellectualism, we're too clever. This harlot has seduced all the leaders, and their citizens have become intoxicated, drunk, with the passion, lusts of the harlot's impurity. They desire to... See, this is what... I'm just looking at this now. This is what comes at you. Really beside, oh wow, oh wow, wow. What do you get when you get to the bottom of the picture? This is what you really get filled with. Don't be deceived into this. This is what's really going on. Look at this idiots. Look at this. This is what's really underneath. Don't get seduced by what's really going on. These are the leaders, they desire to come into union with her, to become exactly what she is, to have exactly what she's having, they think. As a bride in waiting, placing our love and adoration on anything other than Yahusha is idolatry. Anything. Placing our love and adoration on anything other than Yahusha is idolatry. Got that? Which is spiritual adultery. And being a whore, harlot to him. For he loves us so very much. Can you see habits, interests and behaviours in your life that are illegally mixing and loving the world way too much? We'll end it halfway through the chapter tonight. That's enough. Revelation had 2 women. Whose bride do you want to be? And 2 women. One that was shining with the esteem of Yahusha, the sun, the moon and the stars. And there's one that's riding a whore. Whose bride do you want to be? So think about it and let Yahusha say to you during that, I don't like you doing that. I don't want you mixing with that. I don't want you obsessed with that. I'm not talking about I've got to go here, I've got to go to work, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Oh, what flavour pizza do you want? Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're obsessed and you spend so much time and effort and passionate about it, except Yahusha. He hates, worship is adoration, and he doesn't want us worshipping anything but him. So if you're feeling like crap in a day for 1 minute, 1 hour, it's because you're thinking of something else but Yahusha. Because if you're thinking about Yahusha and praising him, doing what he wants you to do, and he's very practical, it's not just, oh, I've got to read and I've got to sit there and think. No, he'll just say, go pick that up, go pick that up, go do this, go do that, look at your car, look at your house, go do this, go do that. Very practical. If you're doing what he tells you to do, you feel great because you're listening to him, and that's what he wants. Your only other alternative is this. And you can see what this is promoting in the world. Not only are we seeing it in television and movies now, but everybody's attached one to their hand now. And I can see it all the day, every day. They walk around with their head down, attached to any kind of filth that they want to. So if you were to try and have a conversation with somebody like that, what would you get?
No. Pause.
Aggression. She has everybody controlled. Drunk. Would you try and take somebody staggering out of a bar after 20 drinks and try and have a serious conversation with them? That's drunk. That's how she's made everybody in the world. And Satan has sown that seed, corrupt seed, in every single person. And as we know, there's only one way to get that seed out of us. We've all got that seed out of us, but we all know the battle to stay sane and not get drunk, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the message tonight, guys. I've halved it because there's way too much information. Next week we're going to go into who those 10 kings are and what that last nation was. Is it America? Is it Europe? Is it Islam? What is it? Stay tuned next week. Because there's way too much information. Would anybody like to add anything before we close?
I think it's
You have to be
It's not just physical drunkenness, it's spiritually.
Yeah.
So you're not conscious of yourself, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's really like just like stupid and like kind of angering how he's just constantly mocking Yahusha and everything he does and tricking everyone into doing all this stuff, and it's just like so like like annoying and I guess angry and everything. Like it just like,
So if you find yourself in a situation where you're actually having a genuine interaction with somebody, it doesn't even have to be about Yahusha. If you're having a genuine conversation or anything with somebody and they start mocking, what do you know?
Satan.
Could be friends, family, wife, husband, parents, it could be anybody. And they're mocking you, sending you up to your face or behind your back. What do you know about them?
They're being controlled.
What if they've been immersed in the name of Yahusha?
Then they're still being
Still
controlled.
being controlled.
Which woman are they?
Which woman are they? That's the point. So think about all that, chew on it. And next few chapters are going to be tying all this up about the woman. Started a few chapters ago about the beast, and now it's the woman who's controlling the beast. But as we're going to see, the beast and all the kings are going to turn on the woman and rip her to shreds because they're not coming under her anymore. That's it. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining us tonight. We'll see you in a few days.
Right.
Always.
Right. Mm.
Mushkina. Black of peas came to make it hotter. We beat the fire starter. Bubbling up just like lava, heated like a sauna. Penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya. With hip hop mixed up with samba. So yes, y'all. You know we never stop, we never rest, y'all. The black of peas will keep it funky fresh, y'all. And we won't stop until we get y'all. Till we get y'all, say yeah.
Peter Piper pick peppers, but have rock rhymes. 1, 2, 3, 4, several times. Heavy rotation played by every kind. Radio station blessing every mind. We crossing boundaries like every day. Do Bobby, been the on the bay. We got tab magnification, tab magnify like every day.
So yes, y'all. You know we never stop, we never rest, y'all. The black of peas will keep it funky fresh, y'all. And we won't stop until we get y'all. Till we get y'all, say yeah.
Be my daily operation. Gotta put in work in this crazy occupation. Gotta keep it moving. That's the motivation. Gotta ride the waves and keep a tight relation with my team. Keep it moving and doing it right. Up in the lab every day till daylight. That's the way things move in this monkey business.
We took an old samba song and remixed it.
Mas que nada, sai da minha frente que eu quero passar. Pois o samba está animado. Eu quero é sambar. Este samba é misto de maracatu. É samba de preto velho, samba de preto tu.
Mas que nada.
We gon' make you feel hot. The beats and Sergio Mendes heating up samba.
Sergio play your piano.